So let me tell you how this usually goes. I come across a Geeks and Gamers video that looks particularly uninformed. I decide to watch it, and throughout the content of the video, I'm struck with the realization that Jeremy is playing his cards very close to his chest. He's saying everything with the plausible deniability that he can take it back later or partially take it back and not take full responsibility for the words that he's said. He really wants you to think that it's a coincidence that every single thing that he's upset about is exactly the thing that a bigot would be upset about. Or he wants you to think that actually it's not his fault that he has to be mad at every single black person, woman, or gay person in media, that it's the left or the wokes' fault for introducing them into media or pushing them too hard, whatever that means. But every once in a while, because Jeremy's a silly little guy and not the sharpest knife in the drawer, he lets the mask slip just a little bit. And I think this is a particularly interesting example of that because it's so unambiguous that I struggle to think of any possible way that he could come back from this as though it wasn't the thing that we all know that it is. The example that we're going to talk about today is interesting to me, I guess just because it's so unambiguous that I cannot envision any possible rhetorical technique that he could employ to make it not seem like what it very obviously is. This example is, of course, a result of the trailer and some news surrounding the new X-Men 97 animated show that's going to be premiering on Disney+. I didn't look up the date. I'm not going to look up the date. The news I'm, of course, referring to is that one of the characters in the show, Morph, is going to be non-binary in this iteration. And that's literally it. That is the entirety of the news that we are upset about right now. So I'll let Jeremy talk about it, and then we're going to have a bit of a discussion about what this means and why it's so interesting to me.
Well, then we get this right here from X-Men Updates. Morph's characterization in X-Men 97. This is a lighter take on the character who is non-binary and has an interesting buddy relationship with Wolverine. The character's past with Mr. Sinister, the show's villain, could also come into play. And boom, done. See you later. It's over. I retweeted this. Simply put, fuck this show.
What strikes me first about this, and that's just, it's almost funny, is that Jeremy is so fundamentally incapable of engaging with the beliefs of people that he disagrees with that literally every time that he discusses anything even remotely related to quote-unquote woke beliefs, he has to read the opinions of his opponents in a weird, silly voice, even when it makes no sense. Like, this is literally just a news tweet, but he has to read it in the, like, SJW, we're non-binary voice, and it's, like, it's almost insufferable. I guess it's just, like, doing something really stupid and then being like, that's what my opponents sound like, but, like, you're the one in clown makeup. But more importantly than that, Jeremy is just upset that there's a non-binary person. Like, it doesn't go any deeper than that, and he doesn't try to couch it in the language that they usually try to couch these beliefs in. Usually, someone in this position will try to pull the whole, well, I'm not upset about black people, I'm upset about forced diversity, or I'm upset that they're changing the canon, or some other excuse, and then, conveniently every single thing they're upset about is a minority of some sort. But no, Jeremy is cutting straight through the red tape, which I almost appreciate, and telling us, no, he is just upset about the presence of the minority. And as refreshing as that is, it begins to become incredibly obnoxious when I realize that these people still will not admit that they are just transphobic. And what I often see in discussions of this issue is people saying, oh, of course, you always jump to those accusations. You always jump to the ists and the phobes accusations. And then they refuse to engage with the actual point that I've made. And what's particularly funny is that oftentimes when I make videos about this, I don't jump to those accusations. I simply imply them in my language without directly saying them. And these people still comment those things, seemingly unaware that they're making my argument for me by recognizing the subtext of everything that I'm saying. You're right. When I talk about, the critical drinker's problem with women or something, I am calling him sexist, but I'm not explicitly saying that. You have to read between the lines a little bit. And of course, I own my words. I will say that with my whole chest, that, these people are sexist. But I generally avoid directly outright saying it, because then it requires them to engage in that little tiny bit of media analysis, and somehow they never seem to learn that is the exact same thing that the people that they like are doing. That is the subtext going on underneath all of the stuff that is present on Geeks and Gamers channel or whomever anti-woke whatever grifters page that you want to look at. The subtext of my content on these people is that they are bigots, in much the same way that the subtext of their content is that they have some problem with minorities. But I guess beyond that, people have this bizarre aversion to being called out on bigotry, to being called out for racist or sexist or transphobic behavior. And I find that kind of odd, I guess just because it almost feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, bigotry is quite bad, but the really cool thing about bigotry, don't clip that out of context, is that you can stop doing it. You can cease to be a bigot by changing your outlook on things, or oftentimes just by changing your behavior, because oftentimes there even aren't necessarily super deep underlying supremacist beliefs. You just kind of follow, go with the flow, whatever, follow the crowd. And I know that there are people who are really unforgiving of those who had, previous bigoted tendencies. Yeah, they exist. They're all on Twitter, but they do exist, and I understand that. But the vast majority of people in this sort of sphere are quite interested, are quite open to people changing their minds and growing as a person. But by simply having this aversion to being called out on that behavior at all, you do continue to replicate and repeat that behavior. What once began as a person who said one racist thing that could have been corrected has grown into a person who is racist. So I guess all that to say, if you are a person in this sphere of influence, I would appreciate if you were just open and honest about the things that you believe. If I'm going to be quite frank about it, it is better than the alternative. I would rather an honest bigot to a disingenuous one. It would make you a slightly better person, not by much, but a little bit. But as things continue to get worse, as the mask continues to slip, your plausible deniability is running out very, very quickly, and eventually you will be forced to reckon with the fact that your beliefs are, I guess to use a buzzword, toxic. You can either take that in stride and resolve to improve as a result of that, or you can continue down the route of either denying it or openly expressing your bigotry with fervor. But I guess, yeah, that's kind of the point that I wanted to make about this video. It is very, very funny that Jeremy's just outright telling us, hey, I don't like trans people, and that's it. I don't like them. I don't like trans people. I can't handle it. And of course, it evokes those sort of images that these people had of people like Anita Sarkeesian back in the day, of just being offended by anything and triggered by even just the slightest little piece of information that doesn't conform to their worldview. Although I guess to throw Anita Sarkeesian a bone, at least sexism is an actual problem, unlike whatever these people are upset about every other day of the week. But I guess while we're watching this video, I kind of wanted to highlight an example of why this media brain poisoning is so tragically funny, because Jeremy plays a clip of Bob Iger, and far be it from me to defend that guy, but plays a clip of Bob Iger talking about, Disney and their approach to prejudice and to bigotry and everything, and he says that Bob Iger is super, super proud of himself for greenlighting Black Panther and thinks that he's super awesome for all of this woke business, and I think it's really funny because, well, here, I'll just play the clip.
That's Bob Iger. He also says, hey, we did Black Panther. How great are we?
A great example of that, or Tiana, or of course, Black Panther is one of the great examples of that. I allowed those things to make me feel a bit complacent in a sense. It's not that I wanted to be that way, but I thought, wow, we did Black Panther. How great are we?
And that is Bob Iger's mentality.
Do you catch that? He's saying the opposite of what Jeremy said. Like the exact flip reverse of what Jeremy said, and I don't know, I think that's kind of funny. Bob Iger saying he should not have allowed his pride in greenlighting Black Panther to make him become complacent, and that was a mistake in his reasoning. I mean, still, fuck that guy, but come on, man, we're all doing our best. Subscribe, I'll see you later.